Hey, so I'm Dr. Deborah Stine. I'm founder of the Science and Technology Policy Academy. Uh, and I want you to first think about what societal problems you care about. It could be health policy, just like Aaron was talking about. It could be environment or energy, national security, homelessness, whatever it is. Just think about those subtle problems and what you might be able to do to impact policy that will help resolve those challenges. So the first societal challenge I addressed was when I was a high school student. I was in Texas on the Gulf Coast, and just like the little girl in this picture, I was really concerned about oil pollution in the Gulf of Mexico. I could see it on the beach when I went in the water. I would get in my swimsuit, and as a high school student, I conducted research on the use of microbial elements to clean up that oil, and that was like really exciting for me. I produced a paper, but what I found out shortly afterwards was that, if you want to have impact on society, it's not enough to produce a paper. So just like the at the Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones went to all that effort to find the Ark of the Covenant, and then it ended up in this big warehouse. The same thing can happen with scientific technical research unless we take actions to get it out there into the world. So this came up again when I was at the White House, and you can see me there in the back, and I'm sort of in the red suit, and President Obama's on the right. And this is during the BP oil spill, and I sat there in my office listening to the folks in the office next door, trying to figure out ways to respond to this challenge. And I thought back, that goes back to my paper. Just again, we have an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. What can we do about it? What actions can we take to have an impact on society? And luckily, through the years I was in DC, including at the White House, I was able to have an impact. And I can say, all these things change because of my contribution and that of many other scientists, engineers, and health professionals to society. But what I learned is that it doesn't happen just with scientific and technical evidence. It also means storytelling. So the person on the left who is shaking hands with President Clinton is a guy named Norm Augustine, who's a former CEO of Lockheed Martin. I worked with him on this report called Rising Above the Gathering Storm. And this was a bipartisan, bicameral effort to try to think about how the U.S. could be more innovative with scientific and technical information. And it was something where we could really see that the parties could work together. They passed the American Competes Act. When President Obama came in office, he signed legislation to actually fund all the different activities in the American Competes Act. But unfortunately, those days are behind us. So although it used to be that Republicans had a great deal of confidence in scientists, that's not the case. Overall, in the United States, we've seen a 10% decrease in confidence in scientists, and in Republicans, it's been 20%. So we really need to take actions to figure out how to get back that confidence that we lost. It began during the pandemic, but what's of greater concern is that we're not really getting it back. And one way to do that is to make sure that we answer the questions that policymakers and the public have. And too often, as scientists and engineers, we focus on the effectiveness, the degree to which a societal goal is met. We also have to think about efficiency. What will get the best bang for the societal buck? We have to think about equity, the fairness of the policy. Who are the winners? Who are the losers? And we have to think about ease of political acceptability, the degree to which people will oppose or support a particular policy. Another lesson that I learned, and this goes back to when I was working on the Rising Above the Gathering Storm report, is that we need to learn that people prefer stories. You'll see here on this chart on the right that yes, facts and evidence do play a role, but stories also play a very important role. And so for those of you who are not scientists, engineers, but you still think that public policy should be evidence-based, your stories, your lived experiences are just as important as that scientific evidence in trying to bridge these moral and political divides that we're facing today. So what we need is a combination of skills and stories and spaces. We need skills So this is an example of an analysis I just recently did for an organization called Reimagine Appalachia about using waste heat from data centers to provide some sort of community good, like perhaps a greenhouse that could help grow food for people who lack food or those who are for food deserts. Um, when I was teaching a workshop in Virginia, a student told me about her grandmother who was forced to leave her home because of PFAS in her well. And we need spaces. We need to make sure that the stories and the analysis that we do are focused on where people live, on their communities. And this is analysis done by one of my former students when she was at the University of Minnesota. Uh, that and she was concerned about tear gas that came into where she was living, attending the University of Minnesota during the George Floyd protest. And we've seen this even again today, recently with the ICE protest. So we need those skills and stories and those spaces where people live to really have an impact on policy. So to do this, I came up with this ACE framework. It includes 3 elements. The first is analysis, the key thing that I've been doing for decades, getting those facts and figures. And then we want to communicate. We need to sort of tell a story. But just like this, we also have to do engagement, because just like this scene, which is from Hamilton, where Aaron Burr is telling Alexander Hammer to talk less, and that he needs to smile more, listen more. That's something else that we also need to do, and we need to do this in partnership with those who have those lived experiences, so that together we can have an impact on society and make the world a better place. So if you'd like to know more about my ACE framework and how you can get involved in all the work that I'm doing to try to bring scientific and technical information to bear on societal outcomes, please connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to tell you more.